Welcome to this in-depth discussion. Today, we want to talk about a psychological state that many of us might have experienced, and it can have a profound impact: suspicion. We have a document, a transcript of a conversation, that deeply analyzes the harm caused by suspicion. So, our task today is to explore how this document dissects suspicion and why it claims that suspicion is almost always detrimental, even if you feel you were right this one time. This is a good question. What does it have to do with our lives? The document makes an interesting point. The core of suspicion is guessing. The document immediately highlights that the nature of suspicion is guessing, so let's start there. Why guesses are usually inaccurate? Why are guesses usually inaccurate? Because when we guess, we often rely on our limited past experiences and feelings. We measure others by our own standards. But here's the problem: even if the surface appearances seem to align with your guess, the other person's mood at that time, and their specific context, might be completely different from what you imagine. The document even mentions a number, stating that the probability of guessing correctly might be extremely low, perhaps only 0.001%. That probability seems incredibly low, almost exaggerated. It sounds like guessing based on our own experience is almost certainly a misjudgment, a very high probability. And even if, by some 1 in 1,000 chance, you do guess correctly, think about it. Isn't the process of constantly guessing exhausting? It must be very unpleasant. It's very energy-consuming. The document also poses a sharper question: even if you guess correctly, what then? Does it truly benefit you? This is really the core issue. The document provides a few examples to discuss this. For instance, suppose you suspect someone wants to use up your power, and you guess correctly. What's your next step? Do you try to bring them down, or do you simply concede power to them? Both options seem awkward. No matter which path you choose, it's highly likely to escalate the conflict, potentially pushing those who were on the fence directly to the opposing side, possibly resulting in mutual destruction. That sounds terrible. The same applies to relationships. For example, you suspect your partner is hiding money, or, more seriously, having an affair. Then you go looking for evidence, and you actually find it. What happens next? A confrontation and a big fight. The likely outcome is the direct breakdown of the relationship. Even if the other person might have felt some guilt or considered making amends, your actions might eliminate any last chance. So, whether it's a power struggle or a relationship issue, these examples suggest that even if you guess correctly, your act of confrontation often leads to greater loss. There's no winner. The self-destructive nature of suspicion. It sounds like suspicion doesn't just trigger external conflicts. It seems that the moment it appears in your mind, it already begins to affect you. The document particularly emphasizes this point. Regardless of whether your suspicions are true or false, the instant the thought of suspicion arises in your mind, it immediately starts to harm your own mood. It affects you first. Your mood gets ruined. And once your mood sours, a chain reaction follows. How so? Your demeanor, facial expression, tone of voice, and actions will unconsciously become very negative. Your whole presence just seems off. Doesn't that damage your impression on others and your own state? In such a negative state, the decisions you make and the words you speak are unlikely to be good, instead accumulating negative consequences, what one might call bad karma. This sounds quite serious. And think about it, if you constantly maintain this bad mood and negative image, according to the law of attraction or destiny, you'll naturally attract negative things and push away positive ones. That makes sense. Who wants to be around someone who's constantly frowning and paranoid? People will naturally want to keep their distance from you. So, suspicion sounds almost like a mechanism of self-depletion, even self-destruction. The impact of suspicion and self-reflection. You could say that The document uses a very vivid analogy. What analogy? It says that people trapped by worries, especially suspicion, are like overcooked noodles. Overcooked noodles. Soft and limp. Exactly, they've gone completely soft, lost their structure, and can't stand upright. That's a powerful image. You can imagine that such a limp state would naturally affect your studies, career, and family life. All aspects would suffer. It feels like your entire life would spiral downwards. If you continue to carry this suspicious and negative state everywhere you go, the ultimate result, as described in the document, might be that everyone dislikes you and avoids you, leaving you very lonely. That sounds terrible. This is a very fundamental kind of destruction. The document also adds a noteworthy point. Sometimes you might try to let go of your suspicions, perhaps through repentance or making vows, wanting to stop being suspicious and to change. But if after a while, something happens that seems to confirm your original suspicion, isn't that even worse? The suspicion would return even more intensely. However, the document reminds us that the core problem hasn't changed. Suspicion itself, from the moment it arises in your mind, has already been continuously harming you, regardless of whether there's later evidence. Understood. So, after our discussion today, the most crucial point we've gathered from this document seems to be that the act or thought of suspicion, from the moment it arises in your mind, already begins to have a negative effect. Yes, it first impacts your own mood, then your image, words, and actions, and finally, it might lead to setbacks in your relationships and various aspects of life. And this seems to have little to do with whether you end up guessing correctly or incorrectly. The key is the act of suspicion itself. This is really worth considering for all of us. Think about how much thought and energy we spend in our daily lives trying to guess what others are thinking and what their intentions are. That's true. This leads to a point we can take away for self-reflection, since the document highlights that suspicion, even when things are unclear, can already be said to poison our feelings and interactions. What if we consciously make a choice? What choice? When the temptation to guess another person's thoughts arises again, try to pause. Don't fill in the blanks in your mind, don't guess wildly, just observe without making hasty judgments. Perhaps we can try to observe if our inner feelings and interactions with others change if we don't rush to guess. This is something you can take back and experience in your own life. This is a very good point for reflection. Thank you.